should have left that hotel immediately, but nothing was enough of a reason at first for me to leave. I had no idea how that night was going to unfold. I was in St. Louis for a one-day conference, and my flight home got canceled because of weather. It was late, close to 10, and I booked the hotel at the last minute. It looked good online, and when I got there, it still looked good in person. The lobby was clean, quiet, polished, and normal enough that I dropped my guard almost immediately. The only thing that stood out was the staff. They were rude in that cold, tired way where they don't even bother pretending to be polite. The girl at the desk barely looked at me. Her answers were clipped. The guy next to her looked irritated the whole time, like I had shown up at the worst possible moment. Nobody smiled. Nobody welcomed me. They just gave me the key card and told me I was in room 307. An older staff guy took my bag and led me upstairs. He barely spoke during the elevator ride. The whole third floor was quiet in a way I noticed but didn't question at the time. Not peaceful quiet, just still, like sound didn't travel properly there. Then right outside my room, I slipped. I went down on one knee and one hand. It wasn't a terrible fall, but it knocked the breath out of me for a second. The old man bent down and helped me up. That's when I saw the bottom of the door. The lower part of it was covered in deep scratches, long jagged marks cut into the wood low to the ground, not little marks, not wear and tear. It looked like something had clawed at it over and over again. I pointed and asked, "What happened there?" He looked at the door and said, "Nothing. Sometimes the cat gets in and scratches the doors." I looked down the hallway. Every other door looked fine. Only mine was marked up like that. Before I could say anything, he looked at me and said, "Sir, don't lock the door tonight." That made me stop. I asked him, "Why? Are you going to come back to my room or something?" He apologized right away. Said that wasn't what he meant. Said the locks on that floor got stuck sometimes, and that if something went wrong, it was better not to risk it. I laughed a little and told him I didn't believe in weird warnings. He didn't argue. He just nodded and stepped back. I opened the room, and as soon as I stepped inside, a cold draft went through me. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some giant blast of air. It was just a sudden coldness that slid through my chest and arms and raised goosebumps all over me. Enough to make me pause and glance around. I figured a window had been left open. After the old man left, I checked. All the windows were shut, locked too. I stood there for a second, mildly confused, and let it go. I was tired. I locked the door anyway, dropped my bag, and went to shower. That was the first thing that went wrong. The shower was normal at first. Then the bathroom started filling with steam way too fast. The mirror disappeared. The air got thick. It stopped feeling like shower steam and started feeling like the room was being pumped full of heat. I shut the water off and reached for the door. The handle wouldn't turn. I tried again. Nothing. The lock had jammed. I still wasn't alarmed then, just annoyed. I twisted it harder, pulled, jerked it. Then the air started feeling wrong, heavy, wet. It became harder to take a full breath. I hit the door with my shoulder once, then harder. On the third hit, it gave way, and I half stumbled out coughing. I stood there dripping on the bathroom floor, breathing through my mouth, and actually laughed. The old guy wasn't lying, I said to myself. The locks really are bad. That was still where my head was. I thought the hotel was weird, badly maintained, maybe older than it looked. But that was it. I went downstairs to eat. I ordered a burger because I didn't want to think about anything. I was tired enough that all I wanted was food and sleep. I was halfway through it when I looked down and saw worms moving in the meat. Thin, white worms. I froze with the bite still in my mouth, then spat it out so fast I nearly choked. My stomach turned instantly. I shoved the plate away and stared at it, feeling that hot wave of disgust climb all the way up my throat. Then I looked again. The burger looked completely normal. No worms, no movement, nothing. Just a half-eaten burger sitting there under the restaurant lights. I kept staring at it, waiting for something to move again. Nothing did. That was the first moment I started questioning myself. I told myself I was exhausted, stress, no sleep, airport delays, bad food, whatever. I wanted it to be me. That still felt easier than admitting something about the place was wrong. So I went back upstairs. Inside the room, I started getting ready for bed. I set my phone down, pulled back the blanket, moved a pillow, just normal routine stuff. Then I heard the door open behind me. Not the handle, the actual door. I turned around and it was standing open. I remembered just staring at it for a second, trying to think back on whether I had really locked it. I convinced myself maybe I hadn't shut it properly after coming in. I walked over, closed it, locked it again, tested it twice. And while I was still standing there, the TV turned on behind me. The sudden light and sound in the dark room made my skin tighten across my back. I turned slowly, picked up the remote, and switched it off. "What a weird hotel," I said. Even then, I was still trying to make it small. I turned off the lights and got into bed. I woke up because something was touching me, a hand, cold and steady on my shoulder, not pressing hard, just resting there. And near my ear, close enough that I could feel the warmth of breath against my skin, I heard a woman breathing. My eyes opened immediately. I didn't move. Every muscle in my body locked so hard it hurt. My jaw was clenched. My fingers were stiff under the blanket. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears, fast and heavy, but I stayed completely still because something in me knew not to turn around. The breathing stayed there, slow, close, human. Then it stopped. The hand lifted. I snapped upright, reached for the lamp, and flooded the room with light. "Who the fuck is here?" I shouted. "Come out, right now." My voice sounded wrong in that room, too loud, but thin at the same time. Nothing answered. Then the chair near the TV scraped across the floor, just a few inches, a dry wooden drag against the carpet. I stared at it. "Okay," I said, but my voice wasn't steady anymore. "Okay, funny." I went to the door, unlocked it, and pulled. Nothing. I pulled harder. The lock was jammed. Right behind me, the chair moved again. This time, it didn't just scrape. It dragged slowly across the room in short jerks, like someone was pulling it by the back two legs. I turned around and watched it inch toward me by itself. That was the moment my body gave up trying to be rational. My mouth went dry. My hands started shaking so hard I could barely grip the handle. I slammed my shoulder into the door and started yelling for help. Then the chair lifted off the floor. It didn't tip. It didn't slide. It lifted clean into the air and flew at me. I threw myself to the side. It smashed into the door so hard the whole frame shook and the door swung open. I ran. I didn't even think. I ran barefoot down the hallway, hit the elevator button, got downstairs, and sprinted into the lobby. No one was there. The desk was empty. The lobby was empty. No clerk, no guests, no security, nobody. I shouted for help. My voice echoed once and died. I ran to the main doors and yanked on them, locked. I shoved harder, but they didn't move. That was when the place stopped feeling real. It felt like the entire hotel had emptied out while I was asleep, like everyone had left without making a sound, and I was the only one still inside. I turned to find something to break the glass with. Then the lights went out. Everything dropped into black. I stopped breathing for a second. I could hear my own pulse. I could hear the building creak somewhere above me. Then the lights came back on. But not all of them. The hallway off the side of the lobby was still dark. The light above it flickered once. In that split second, I saw a tall shadow stretched across the floor. The light flickered again. Now it wasn't on the floor anymore. It was standing, a long shape at the end of the hall, too still, too thin, with shoulders that looked wrong somehow. The light flickered again. Now one arm was raised, pointing at me. I felt something hot and electric run through my chest. My knees actually weakened. I couldn't tell if I wanted to run or if my body had forgotten how. The light flickered one more time, and it was coming at me. Fast. Not running like a person. It moved in violent, jerking bursts, closing distance too quickly, like it was skipping pieces of motion. I stumbled backward. The lights cut out again. This time I felt it before I saw anything, a cold presence directly behind me. So close that the skin at the back of my neck tightened. Then a whisper slid into my ear. Low, wet, almost amused. I don't even remember the words. I just remember the sound of it. I screamed and ran back upstairs. My phone was in my room. That was the only thought in my head. Phone. Call. Help. I got inside, grabbed it, and dialed 911 with shaking fingers. A woman answered. I started talking too fast, nearly tripping over my own words, telling her I was trapped in a hotel and something was happening and I needed police there right now. She didn't interrupt me. Then I heard her laugh. Not loud, not wild, just a soft, breathy little laugh like she was listening to something familiar. Then she said, "You can't get out." Everything in me went cold. I looked at the screen to make sure I'd really dialed 911. Then she said, clearer this time, "You will never get out." I ended the call. Right after that, the room erupted. The TV snapped onto static so loud it rattled through my skull. The lamp launched off the table and shattered. Something hit me in the chest hard enough to throw me backward onto the floor. The air felt packed with movement. The closet doors started slamming open and shut so violently the hinges sounded like they were screaming. Then I heard a child laugh, not from one place, from all around the room, small, high, wrong. The sound bounced around me while things kept moving. The room door ripped off its frame and crashed across the room. At that point, I lost whatever control I had left. I dropped down and started begging out loud. I don't even remember exactly what I was saying. Just please, please stop. Please let me go. Then the lights went out again. I covered my head and squeezed my eyes shut. Around me, I could hear wood breaking, glass popping, heavy impacts against the walls, dragging sounds, footsteps circling me, whispers overlapping each other so closely it sounded like the room itself was muttering. Then everything stopped. All at once. Silence. I opened my eyes. The room was wrecked. The chair was upside down. Glass was everywhere. The door was off. The lamp was broken. My suitcase had been split open. I looked at the time. 5 a.m. I ran back to the lobby. The old staff guy was standing there. For 1 second, I almost cried from relief. I actually moved toward him. "Help me," I said. "Please." He turned around slowly. He was smiling. And when I saw his face properly, something inside me dropped. His eyes were black, not shadowed, not dark-colored. Black, empty, hollow all the way through like two burned holes in his face. My hands started shaking so badly I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. My vision blurred at the edges. I took one step back and nearly tripped over my own feet. He looked at me and said, very calmly, "I told you not to lock the door." Then he grabbed me by the throat. The cold of his hand was worse than the pressure. It felt dead. My back hit the floor, and I saw sparks in my vision. I kicked and twisted and somehow slipped out from under him. I ran back upstairs. I don't even know why. Pure panic, pure instinct. I got to my room, shut myself inside what was left of it, and found a knife in my bag. I sat on the floor with my phone flashlight on, holding that knife in both hands because they wouldn't stop shaking. The room was dark, except for that weak beam of light. Dust was hanging in the air. I could hear my own breathing, ragged and uneven, and every few seconds I thought I heard something else breathing with me from another corner of the room. I was exhausted. My throat hurt. My head was pounding. My body felt hollow, like all the strength had drained out of me at once. I remember thinking very clearly, I'm going to die in here. I don't remember falling unconscious. One moment I was sitting there with the knife in my hand, listening for movement. The next moment I was waking up on the floor. Gray morning light was coming through the curtains. The room was a complete mess, not the kind of mess that looked imagined. Real damage. Broken lamp, splintered wood, glass, my things thrown everywhere. My whole body hurt. I got up slowly, packed my bag in a rush, and left the room. The hallway looked normal. I got into the elevator. People were in the hotel again. I could hear voices now, distant luggage wheels, the quiet hum of a normal morning. On my way down, I saw the old man. For a second, my heart stopped. He was standing near the corridor like nothing had happened. He looked at me normally and said, "Morning, sir. Is there an issue?" I just stared at him. His eyes looked normal. His face looked normal. I said, "No." My voice barely sounded like mine. He nodded and walked off. By then, my head was pounding so hard I could feel it behind my eyes. I got to the lobby, and the girl at the desk looked at me strangely. I must have looked insane, sweaty, pale, exhausted, probably still shaking. She glanced at me and said, "Rough night?" I looked at her and honestly couldn't tell any more what was real. I didn't answer. I just put the key on the desk and checked out. I went home. But that night changed something in me. Before that, I didn't fear any of this. I didn't believe in ghosts, hauntings, signs, or anything paranormal. I used to hear stories like that and laugh them off. After that hotel, I couldn't do that anymore. It was like something in my mind had broken open. I became paranoid, not just scared. Paranoid. I started noticing every little thing. A door not shutting properly, a cold patch in a room, a sound in the hallway, a light flickering once. I would freeze and feel that same fear all over again, like my body remembered before my mind could even catch up. I stopped going on business trips. I stopped staying in hotels. I started avoiding any place that felt too quiet, too closed off, too still. Even normal rooms started feeling wrong to me at night. I began checking locks again and again, sometimes 3 times, sometimes 5, sometimes more. And even after checking, I still wouldn't feel settled. Sleep got worse too. I couldn't sleep in darkness for a long time. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night, convinced someone was standing beside my bed. Sometimes I'd hear a small sound in my apartment and stay frozen, not moving, just listening, waiting for it to happen again. That experience didn't just scare me for one night. It changed how I live. It changed how I sleep. It changed what I believe. I don't know what was in room 307. I don't know if it was the room that old man or something else entirely. I just know that whatever happened there followed me out in one way or another, because ever since that night, I haven't been the same, and I don't think I ever will be.